Hi, I'm Felicity Cross, Deputy TV Editor of The Sun, and I am joined today by Ellie Henman, Showbiz News Editor. You know us both from the Sun Down Under podcast and the About Last Night post-show review for I'm A Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Bit of a different one. We are now back in the UK and we thought it would be fun to catch up for the first time since we both got back from Australia.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last time I saw you, Flick, was in the arrivals hall at Brisbane Airport, and I was very lucky. I went through very quickly, but you had to spend quite a lot of time there, didn't you?
I feel like Brisbane Airport became my second home in Australia, and Australia's got so much to see and do, and yet there I was in that airport hall constantly. So, I mean, yeah, every single stage of the show seems to sort of revolve around that airport.
I mean, because you took on everything from the beginning. I very much just came in on the end of my white horse and just did a lot of drinking and a lot of sunbathing, really. But I mean, because you covered the show in the follow-up and then the precursor to everything happening too, because there was so much beef before people went into the jungle, I feel, like, especially with like old tweets coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously the big signing this year that everyone was talking about was Nigel Farage. So as part of that, there was, on one hand, sort of people talking about whether it was right that he should have that huge fee, people saying that they were going to boycott the show and not even tune in. But then all the celebrities that were also signed up for the show had loads to say about Nigel in the past. So there was Fred Sirieix, he'd tweeted about him. And then there was Grace Dent. She'd reacted to his plane crash and said lots of nasty things about him. And then there was Tony Bellew, the boxer. So they were all going into the camp already with all of this drama going on.
I feel like Nigel must have been so nervous going into that situation and thinking you're going to walk into camp and then everyone's going to hate you, basically.
Yeah.
It'd be a horrible feeling.
Defo. So when I first encountered Nigel, it was when he walked out into airport arrivals. And first of all, he was so Nigel. He was there in his pink chinos and his blue sort of linen shirt. And the first thing I said to Nigel when he sort of came out was, Nigel, did you break your alcohol ban on the plane? Because he'd sort of said before he went in how he tried to quit boozing to sort of prepare himself for camp. But then obviously first thing he said was like, no, I had a G&T on the plane. So very much the people's person there. I always think that airport arrivals thing's quite strange because they don't really know if they're yet able to talk about the jungle. But then there's people like Sam Thompson, who, as we later saw on the show, was just so excited to be there that he was like, I'm so excited. Unlike everyone else that's just got off a 24-hour plane that's like, go away, leave me alone. Nella and Jamile particularly were sunglasses on, leave me alone, don't talk to me.
And I mean, one of my experiences that I was really jealous that you got to have out there was you actually got to go into camp and experience it. Like, what was that actually like? Because I think none of us, well, very few of us, will ever get the chance to do that.
Yeah. So you arrive sort of in a minibus and you're weaving through. It could almost be England. It's very wooded. It doesn't feel like a jungle. But then suddenly you're in a jungle and the vegetation becomes a lot more kind of leafy. It feels a lot more moist. The temperature's very hot and humid. So it's almost like a little village around a wooded area where there's all of the different crew buses and sort of units. So you arrive there, I got given all of my jungle gear. So the red and the blue, and then very, very quickly it goes from sort of almost like a TV set to a jungle. And you walk down a slope and then you're in that almost like veranda area where Ant and Dec film. And so sort of almost you go down a slope and you're there at that veranda and then you look out and it's all of that broccoli that everyone knows from the thing. And immediately connected to the veranda is the bridges, as you see. So the thing that really struck me about those bridges is they're so wobbly. So the idea that those celebrities run along and jump and sort of like into the arms of their loved one, it shakes like this.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it really is. And they're so high up, like you genuinely are at the top of the trees and it bounces and you're there in your sort of walking boots, which feel quite heavy to walk in. And even that, for some celebrities, I get why that's scary. And then you're on the bridges and there's that central point and then you're in camp. And it's almost like, some people say it's bigger than they think, but for me, it felt a lot smaller than it looks on telly.
Yeah, because they kept moaning, I feel like, when I was talking to, especially Nigel, when he came out and I was chatting with him, he was like, oh, it was so big and I had to walk all this way for water. And I thought, it looks tiny on the telly. Like,
No.
what's the real truth?
No, this is why I'm like, Nigel, can we really believe what you say? It's no, it's not at all. It's like, it's a very short walk, maybe like 20 pace sort of steps down to the different creek, up to the dunny. The one thing that really struck me is all the beds are so close together. So if someone's snoring, it would be the most annoying thing in the world. But the one thing that some people know and some don't is there's a huge canopy over that camp. So when it's raining, it's bad, but it's not as bad as it would probably be.
Oh, because they were really griping on about it. They said, oh, we were so wet, we were so cold. Well, if there was a canopy, you wouldn't.
No. Like, if you're on one of those beds near the edge, you're going to get a bit wet. But no, there's a huge canopy over it. You can't see it because of the magic of telly. But no, there is. They're dry. They're relatively clean because of it. So I do feel like that's something which we are slightly fooled about.
I feel like they're spoiled rotten. And now we have to do a shout out to our amazing Carol, who's a Sun reader out in Brisbane, who got in touch with us before the amazing focus building task and said, do you want to come round to my house and film it? And we did. And you met her, didn't you? And you got to do that amazing and watch that first trial up close.
Yes. So that really high up in the middle of Surfers Paradise where they walk the plank, Carol got in touch with us and said, my flat overlooks it. I can see the crew getting ready. And Carol invited us into her home, and we were there watching it firsthand. Now, what you didn't see on telly is the fact that all of them looked so much more terrified than they appeared on telly. Now, Sam Thompson gave it his real beans, as we know from him when he was on there, but he was white as a sheet, and stupidly he kept looking over the edge, and I just thought, why are you doing this, Sam? So stupid. Grace as well, completely white as a sheet.
Really? Because you didn't see that on telly at all?
No. And honestly, that took forever to film. They were there hours doing it, up and down to do all of that. So again, the magic of telly made it look like they were up and then off, but no.
And I think Jamile had a really rocky time, because this was your great exclusive that you bought really early doors, that as soon as she sort of landed, they were already kind of planning for her to exit because she was such a flight risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So from the moment that she did her skydive, and then she had to do that Temple of Doom trial with all the bugs, moaning constantly, not wanting to do it, not speaking to any of the other campmates, in bed as long as she could possibly be, constantly moaning in the Bush Telegraph, I need to leave, talk to my people, I want to leave, I want to get home. Now, we saw a little bit of that in camp, particularly early doors, in terms of her saying that she was homesick, she missed her kids. But it was only once she had that exit plan in place that she then started to open up. It was like when she knew she had an end goal, she was like, right, I'll give you 2 good days of telly and then I'm gone.
Oh, she just wants her fee, doesn't she? She did get her full fee, just like Grace Dent did when she walked. And obviously Brittany was watching her from home. She had a VPN line installed.
That was your great excuse as well, that she was tuning in.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, who wouldn't want it? I mean, they've had such beef, those two. So you think your sister's going to get, eaten alive by maggots. Brittany would be tuning in.
I know. But then there was also the revelation that she was also banking her full fee for Dancing with the Stars that you had.
Yeah, it was wild. I feel like Jamile just played an absolute blinder, because she was just on Dancing with the Stars just before I'm a Celebrity. ABC allowed her to go off and do the jungle, so she exited early from Dancing with the Stars. Then she exited early from I'm a Celeb. So she's going into this Christmas absolutely loaded. Like Jamie, very, very savvy.
Yeah, oh my God, presents for all those kids of hers.
And we have to talk as well, Nigel Farage's bottom.
Do we have to talk about Nigel's bottom?
I was definitely really invested in this, and every single podcast I did, I think I talked about Nigel's bum, because I was just so into it. But I feel like you had this sort of first hand and the backlash that actually came out as soon as he got his kit off.
It was so strange, because I think that, we knew from Nigel that he was talking about his 25% airtime to be part of the trials. He's a clever man. He was going in there with a purpose. He knew that he wanted to use this platform to reach new people. So the question was, is Nigel taking his pants off on purpose, or does he just like to get clean in the shower? Now, I heard from our crew sources that they were all really angry about this. They felt like he was manipulating the show, that it was making it so that, he was getting all that airtime. But look, everybody's in there for a reason. Like, he's a clever man. He knew what we would all be talking about him, and indeed we were.
Oh, exactly. And I remember when I spoke to Nigel when he came out, and he revealed that he'd gone absolutely guns blazing with ITV over it, because he says, or he claims, the camp doctor says to you before you go in, look, you've got to keep yourself clean or you're going to get bitten by leeches. So he goes into the shower and takes his kit off, and they're like, no, to safeguard the poor cameramen and women on this show, we do not want to see your bottom, unlike me. And he went toe to toe with him, because he was like, how can I keep myself clean if I can't get my kit off?
Yeah.
So I feel like the bum row really sort of exploded on. But like Nigel, I feel like the one person I felt, and I don't know how you feel about it, but really sorry for, was Nyla Rose, because I just think it didn't fall well for her. I think they had a plan, her team had a plan, and after that sort of toe to toe with Fred, she never really recovered, did she?
Yeah, and that was just such a shame, because it's unfortunate that we didn't necessarily see the moment before that happened where she'd really opened up about her parents, because that might have given us the context we needed, because the viewers, it just felt like she'd completely overreacted to something that poor Fred had said, quite flippantly it seemed, and then from then on it sort of became that she seemed this battle axe in camp that was taking on Nigel about immigration, that, you know, was all of a sudden in a sexism row for comments that Josie also made, and it just felt like almost her card was marked from that moment, didn't it?
I felt really sorry for her. And in terms of the trials this year, I mean, before the show started, you revealed that they were going to get harder, the trials this year, and my God, they were not joking.
Oh my God, honestly. And sort of it felt like, to the point where the celebrities, hearing from our camp sources that we have, were really pushed to breaking point. They were all completely pushed to the limit. That Scarina series that they did in particular, where it wasn't just one trial being filmed a day and maybe the Dingo Dollar. All of the celebrities were involved in multiple trials, and they were just they had very limited calories. They were all pushed to the limit, as I say, and that was when they all started leaving.
Well, that's when Grace Dent quit, didn't she? Because she just looked awful, bless her. But I think that she really had been pushed to her limit and thought, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like my favourite one this year was Critter Mixer. Seeing that and how tough it was for them. And when Nick Pickard came out and I sat with him and I said, how hard was that? And he was like, I'm literally covered in a rash. And we sat there and he showed me this rash over his neck and arms. And Marvin, he came out after. He also had the same thing. He had it's green ants, and he showed me the scars all over his neck, and he literally has scars all over his neck and arms, and he was like, these are from weeks ago in camps. They are walking wounded when they come out. They had a hard time. And then the one thing, Nigel, I mean, God, he loved to chat when he came out. Meant to have 20 minutes with him, he gave us 45. It was so interesting. But what he said as well about the trials, and onto what you said about making it so difficult, is that he did the drinking trial, and they had to drink, obviously, the testicles, the anuses, the vaginas, all the anatomy. He had to drink with Tony Bellew, and ultimately Nigel said, but they didn't show you afterwards, but Tony was really, really ill and was just like vomiting for hours. Nigel said he was lying up against a log just going and feeling terrible, and you just think they really pushed it out
horrific.
This year.
I've had to drink a blended sheep's brain before at the camp, and it's horrific. Your whole body, your body knows that this isn't something you need to be digesting. It is the gag reflex. And I know at home it looks pretty easy. You just sink a pint. But those eating and drinking trials, they look easier, but they're horrific.
What did it taste like?
The problem for me was that it was warm, gloopy. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it.
That's horrendous.
I know.
And I think we should really talk about Jamie Lynn leaving, because she was the first big person to quit and go. And that really did shock people, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just that. So we know that now that she left in the middle of a lightning storm, and the weather was it almost felt like the main character of this series, because it was so horrible. They were all talking about it all the time. There was a cyclone brewing, there was the heat, then there was the rain. And I think for Jamie Lynn, she had her exit plan in place. The lightning storm struck and she said, this is it, I'm done. But there's always such mystery around it. So what happens when you're there, when you have a campmate leave, as a little insight for people at home, is it's all shrouded in mystery. ITV want to keep it as secret as possible before the celebrity is either locked down in a hotel or on a plane out of the country. So for Grace, she wanted out of there straight away. So we managed to catch up with her at the airport. Whereas for Jamie Lynn, she was in a hotel. So when you're a journalist working there, it's like, where is this celebrity? Where have they gone? Is it medical? Can we talk to them? Because we want to get the gossip for our readers. We want to know what's gone on.
I was about to say, and you're under so much pressure from the UK, because you've got me, sat here going, where is she? What's happening? Because we need to tell someone. And poor Flick's like, I'm driving to the airport, because the airport's like 90 40 minutes away, isn't it? It's quite a schlep for you.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of being a journalist out there. You're in the thick of it. You're like, where can I find them? Are they at the luxury hotel in Surfers Paradise, or are they at the airport? My favourite, Brisbane Airport. So it feels like it's just a TV show, but you're out there. You're in the middle of the action, so it's really exciting.
And just before they stopped quitting and it finally started to become normal, Frankie was the first person out. I mean, I saw that coming because I think we talked about it quite a lot, that who's voting before Frankie Dettori? But I mean, how was he when he came out? Because that was someone I didn't get to talk to. He was for you.
Yeah, definitely. So he's been asked to do it hundreds of times over the years, but it never was quite right with his schedule. But obviously with him deciding to retire and then obviously changing his mind on that, it felt like a good time. And I think he thought he would be going in as a favourite because he's so loved. He's just done that farewell tour of Britain. But the problem was, I'm a Celebrity's Vote to Save, and Frankie has lots of people that love him, but he doesn't have fans in the same way that even Nyla Rose does. So she had all of the content creator army kind of behind her. Marvin had JLS, Josie has This Morning, but who was backing Frankie? And I think he was a bit surprised. He even made a joke that maybe he should have stripped off in the shower too, and then he might have got some of Nigel's fans.
Giddy up, Frankie, definitely would have.
Who were some of your favourite people that left?
So Fred for me, because Fred was my first chat. I'd literally landed, I was knackered as you were, and I sort of went straight in and we did Fred. And for me, coming out, I just wanted to see what had actually gone on with Nyla Rose, because I feel like so much had been written about it.
Yeah.
And I really called him out on it, and I just sort of said, because I said to him, what's Fruitcake said to you about your time in the jungle? And he'd clearly been briefed by her. But I said to him, I was like, look, people are calling you a misogynist. You've had all these sort of claims levelled against you. It's been really tough with them. Oh, the Josie stuff, I add context there. Fred and Josie had obviously been going toe to toe about the cooking, and it reflected really badly. I thought Fred would be a finalist until that row with Josie happened, and then the bullying claims, misogyny, and he really came up punching. He was like, I am none of these things. He was like, if that's the way it's come across. And he said in hindsight, he really just should have said nothing at all. But you're obviously in there, you're wound up, you're starving, hungry. So I thought Fred was a fascinating chat to actually get what he thought about it. And then for me, Nick, as I said, with the horrendous critter marks, but then Danielle Harold as well, because obviously we know, and obviously we revealed later in The Sun, that she'd actually had quite a difficult health scare while she was in there. But rather than throw in the towel like Jamie, Lynn and Grace had, she actually stuck at it and stayed in.
Yeah.
And you just think it must take a lot if you're in that environment feeling really poorly to then, come out and just battle on and try your best.
Yeah.
But she was lovely when she came out, and I feel like her and Nigel had taken on a real friendship that we saw a little bit of on screen, and she told us she was actually washing his pants every single day in the creek.
That would have been enough for me to throw in the towel. Washing anyone's pants, I should say. It's interesting though, because I wonder if Danielle had revealed about her health scare while she was in there, she might have made the final, because everyone loves a trier, and her just battling on like that. I think that Britain would have really got behind her for that.
I agree. I think in a way then she was a bit of a victim of the edit, but obviously if she didn't really want it shown. But I'm with you, because that, like you say, people do love a trier, and actually to see someone really suffering but refusing to give in and to keep pushing on, she would have done 10 times better.
Definitely. Who was your winner then? Obviously Sam won.
Oh, Tony for me.
Yeah.
I thought Tony only really came out of his shell towards the end, and I absolutely loved, in the trials when he was just going for Ant and Dec every single time, shut up. It was just brilliant. I thought he was so funny, and watching that friendship develop with Sam, when Sam slapped that mosquito off his face.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Who was yours?
I was going to say Tony as well. For me, that moment when he was in the kind of coffin and was like, who's the daddy? And then the snake went, and he went, who's the daddy? It was just so funny. I also developed a bit of a crush on Marvin. It's the singing. Do you think there was too much of that kind of... Some people say it was a bit contrived, the sort of singing and dancing and that kind of thing. What do you think?
Well, I think Marvin was actually horrified, because when he came out, I was like, I've interviewed Marvin loads of times with JLS as part of my job in Bazaar. And I said to him, I have never heard that many JLS songs. And he was like, me neither. And I think what that happened was Sam kept instigating it, because he was a genuine JLS super fan.
Yeah.
And Marvin, I think, was horrified. And he actually joked, he's never sang that many JLS songs. It's normally Aston Marigold. So poor told Marvin, he was like, I never want to hear one again. But so next summer, 2024, JLS are doing loads of dates. Sam's definitely going to be coming out with them. So that'll be amazing.
Oh, that's
like,
so
what an
funny.
experience for Sam.
What's the thing that surprised you most about the show, being out there versus being at home?
Oh my, how hard work it is. I feel like for someone who's never gone out and done the jungle before to actually understand the relentless schedule, because I watched you, I was your touch point in the UK and I knew you were working off 2 time zones, but to actually see how relentless it is to be reporting on that show and working on it, going to bed Oz time 11 o'clock at night, waking up at sort of 2-3 in the afternoon, 2-3 in the morning Australia time. I can't still get over it. And then at the UK, that's when we're putting the paper to bed and having to work up that relentless schedule. And the fact that you had to do so much driving, that shocked me. And actually how quite slick it is in the ground. Like, you watch on telly them all coming into the hotel and being cheered on. It's actually quite fun to see that in real life and to actually see like their faces of relief and how, this sounds a bit weird, how much weight they've lost. I think on the telly ads £10 anyway. It's only when you see them in real life and how skinny they look that you think, oh my gosh, you look ill.
Definitely.
How about you?
I mean, my favourite thing is some of the comments that people made on the on the podcast and about last night. Shout out to the person that said, "Is she drunk?"
I thought you sounded marvellous.
That's just the tiredness of what you said. But the thing that I really enjoy about it is Ant and Dec. So, and I think that the beauty of the Jungle Club really brought this to life. So their social media sort of thing that they do after the show is they literally are just like that. So whenever you encounter Ant and Dec around and about as part of being there, because obviously they move out there for a month, for 5 weeks, and they've actually got their own apartment that they go to stay in every single year in this gorgeous little town. They're out in the curry house. They both join the local boxing gym, and they properly set up camp in Australia. This year Dec took his family, and I think that's really lovely because, for a TV couple that have been together for that long, they just genuinely loved going out there and doing it. And I think that they will be doing it as long as ITV have I'm a Celebrity. And it's really nice, I always think, seeing celebrities like in the wild.
Massively. So I also think sort of to spell, people might think, oh, they're only friends on the telly, especially after doing that. And I'm talking about the celebs that were in there. So I was in the airport lounge coming back, and Pete and Sam were in there. Dec was in there as well with Ali, Marvin and Rochelle. And they were all just enjoying some wines and just having a laugh. And Sam was still talking about his jungle journey. Like, I don't think Sam will ever stop talking about this.
Yeah. Obviously, there was a bit of a thing of people saying that they felt like Sam puts it on, that persona, but from what I saw, and it sounds like from what you saw, hard no on that.
Oh no, it's genuine. Sam is genuinely a jungle superfan, and I think I'm pleased that they actually showed it, that they allowed him to have that journey to see people that it wasn't put on. Because when he first came onto the show and was like grabbing, hugging people, I was like, God, that's going to get tiresome. But actually, it really developed and worked well. Yeah. I can't believe it's over. We've done it. Or you've done it. You did the hard work. I genuinely, listeners, sat mainly in the hotel bar every day, drinking glasses of wine and just waiting for them to come out. I didn't have to do any driving. Oh God, whereas with me, it was in a acai bowl and a coffee, desperately just trying to keep myself alive. But mustn't complain, it wasn't witch tea grubs, was it? Exactly. Well, I'll see you in Australia next year, I'm sure.
Get us out of here.